It's time to wave goodbye to all of your Doom Tower problems. Hello everyone, Bront, CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends. We're here on my main, but we will also stop over on the free-to-play as well to talk about the different ways that I approach the Doom Tower waves. Now this may seem like kind of an odd video, but it's actually something that a couple people asked on YouTube about. They were curious about how to get through the waves. So on my main, I literally have a single team that can full auto through the waves to their entirety. Every once in a while, I do have to rerun it on a single floor, but generally I can full auto. It does it really easy. And of course, we are mostly talking about the hard floors, but honestly, if you're struggling on the normal floors, some of this stuff may still be useful to you. So I'll talk about my easy team, which is certainly not going to be an early game accessible team, but I can certainly tell you that it has been doing good for about a year and a half, and I've rebuilt a few of the champions on it since it was a 100% team, but it's been very good and very helpful for me and pretty quick for the most part. And then I'll talk to you about my free-to-play team, what I'm using at various levels, and then I'll start giving a couple tips for a couple of floors where you might specifically have champions that you're going to be fighting against that are going to cause you problems. So let's wave into Doom Tower. So no real major surprises here. It's a Seer wave clear team that I've got here. So we've got Duchess, who brings a ton of buffs as well as a bunch of possible revives if I have a big problem. We've got Lydia for the decreased defense, the weaken, and a bunch of additional buffs as well. So between Duchess and Lydia, I have 5 buffs on the team. And then I have 2 reset champions. As you can see, I have a Yumiko and a Kymar. Generally, I've actually run this team with just double Kymar, but having a Yumiko here as well, because Yumikos can be reset by a Kymar, gives me some added flexibility to the team in case I have a problem, and is really kind of probably the big key that has made it absolutely 100% full auto. But for the most part, you could have double Kymar, and if you don't have a double Kymar team, for example, well, reset champions are still going to be good. You could actually probably make a very similar team with a Renegade and a Donatello, because Donatello will be able to do a 2-turn cooldown reduction on one of his skills, and then Renegade does a 2-turn cooldown as well. Now, that's not quite going to get Seer reset, but that will get her close enough that you should be able to walk through the rest of the fight with her. So let's go take a look at the presets and see how this does. So the presets are generally very important for this, but they're only going to be important on some of the champions because some of these champions just don't do what you want them to do naturally. Duchess will generally do her Shroud of Souls, to the fact she'll actually do it over her Spectral Rebirth. So I might actually make some sense for me to make this the first choice, just in case for some reason somebody actually dies on one of these waves and I need her to revive people. I much rather would have her do her Spectral Rebirth versus her Shroud of Souls. Duchess, unfortunately, is kind of dumb that way. It is very useful if you ever set her on defense to make sure you set that to be the #1 priority as well. But honestly, since most of the time this team is not dying, that really isn't an issue, but it's certainly worth setting. Lydia, at the same time, I've got her Siren Roll set as her #1 here. It generally isn't needed because when in doubt, she will do this one all the time anyway, but this just makes sure that everybody does exactly what I'm expecting them to do. As you can see here, my Lydia here, she's about 283 speed. She's got plenty of accuracy here. If you're looking for the top level of Doom Tower, you're looking about 350 to 400 accuracy. It's somewhere in that neighborhood. I don't know the exact number. I believe 350 is probably enough, but you are looking for faster than about 260 speed. If you are slower than 260 speed, now there's, of course, you have the auras that can certainly help. That's one of the reasons I like Duchess, is she gives the speed aura in this battle as well. You are not going to go before the other waves in some circumstances. So you do need to be careful on that. On top of that, you probably want Duchess to be a little faster than Lydia overall, and that is because you want Duchess to be able to do her Shroud of Souls here, where she can make sure that you get the block debuff on. Otherwise, you have problems where with a Torment floor, you may actually get frozen occasionally. But ultimately, with a Torment floor, you're going to probably need to either manual this in some way, shape, or form, or maybe this team may not even work for you. This team appears to be strong enough that I can just manhandle my way through a Torment floor, and it doesn't really seem to bother me that much. But that's why you might want Duchess to be a little bit faster than Lydia. But as you can see, Mine's not, so it's not been a big issue. To be fair, this is possibly the wrong Duchess. This is my PvP Duchess. I should actually have my PvE Duchess. So let me actually throw the PvE Duchess in here and we'll get back to this again. Here we go. Now with the PvE Duchess, this Duchess is now faster than Lydia, and that means that she will go first, which should actually help on the Tormund floors, because she'll put her block debuffs up, which will prevent Tormund from freezing everybody once they do some of the other stuff that they're going to do. So that is very, very helpful and definitely worth making sure you have set up. Lydia's setup didn't change. See her here. She's around 245 speed. She didn't used to be this fast. She used to be slower, around 210 to 220 speed. As long as she is fast enough to go before everyone else, and that's going to depend on having a good boost right here, and possibly on some of the waves you may end up needing, like Prince Kymar does add some additional turn meter boost as well. So there's some level of, it does help to have her fast, but she doesn't need to be quite this fast. She doesn't need to be quite this much crit damage, and she doesn't necessarily need 6-star crushing rend, but all of that helps, as well as of course building her with ignore defense. As you can see here, we have turned off her clan banner and had her do the karma burn every single time. If you're going to have her reset with a 2-turn reset instead of a 3-turn reset, like a renegade for example, you are going to want to use the clan banner first and then do the karma burn afterwards. And that's just because you're going to get an extra boost here if you need it, and then you'll get the weaken as well. You could certainly try to chance it and instead go with this knockout and have that 20% chance of getting an extra turn, and then maybe she actually just flat out does her karma burn on the second turn. But as far as just timing things in general, the clan banner makes the most sense. And the only time that's ever going to be a problem is, again, the Tormund floors. And here's where it gets a little bit tricky to do some of these hip-hopping setups. And what I mean by hip-hopping is you want the resets to happen at the right time and the right section. So you're going to do one floor and then reset, and then do another floor and then reset, and then do the third floor. So you want these to basically kind of hip-hop each other and make sure they don't happen when they're not supposed to. So having Yumiko faster than anybody else on the team means that you're going to get this dance of time, and you're going to get, when you need the reset to happen. So Yumiko's dance of time is turned off because this is her reset skill. If it was any other reset champion, you want to turn off the reset skill on the first floor because you don't want them to use it before you need to. And in case you don't instantly one-shot everyone on the wave, well, you don't want to reset and then suddenly use all your skills and then you don't have a reset set up for wave 2. That's not good. That's not helping you at all. So Yumiko, I've got her resetting. And as far as Yumiko and Kymar, I have her. She is slightly faster than my Kymar. So generally, you're going to have your slightly faster one be the reset on wave 2 and your slightly slower one be the reset on wave 3. You don't have to do it that way, but it works out fairly well. I think that's a better way to handle it, just in case. That also means that if the faster one gets back to resetting himself again and you need that reset on one of these other waves, it is still available for you. So Yumiko, wave 2, she's going to do her dance of time and then not use it again because I want to make sure that this is possibly available on round 3. And then finally on round 3, I've got her ready for the dance of time if she needs it, but she's not going to lead off with it if she doesn't have to, because she's probably going to have it not on cooldown. Meanwhile, if we go to Kymar is ready to do his dance of time here on the round 3, but will not do it on round 2. Now, if you were doing the double Kymar run, I could actually see a situation where Kymar, you would have him do the sleep on one of the floors, specifically on wave 3, sleeping on one floor. Now, again, it helps to have the Kymars faster than your Duchesses and faster than just about everybody else, because what you want them to do is you want them to be going first and resetting everybody else. If, however, you are using a 2-turn cooldown reset where it is slightly less important, what you could certainly do is you could have them be a little bit slower than some of these champions here. So what happens is the first wave, you get your Duchess, you get your Lydia, you get your Seer. The second wave, you get Duchess, you get Lydia, you get Seer, then you get your first reset champion who then does the reset. And then, of course, your second reset champion will also go. You go back around, now you get your buffs, you get the debuffs, Seer nukes, and then for the third wave, you'll go through the first attack again, you'll get to your first reset champion who probably won't have that reset off of cooldown, but if they do, they can certainly do it again, and if they don't, the next reset champion goes. Now you've gotten one turn into the resets, Duchess can then do her thing, Lydia can do her thing, Seer can do her thing. That is certainly an option to do it. You could also have your reset champions be a little bit faster than these other champions. And that means that Duchess is going to get her Shroud of Souls out easily, so you're going to get the block debuffs back out quickly. Lydia is going to get this decreased defense out quickly, and Seer is just going to have to take 2 turns. So you'll take a few more turns doing it that way, but everyone will be overall faster, and you might be a little bit safer because you'll have all your buffs and debuffs ready to go to kind of keep you alive if you need that. Otherwise, yeah, Kymar does his reset magic here, and since Kymar is slower than Yumiko probably won't have this ready to go, and if she does, it still gets reset. And if for some reason we go through this wave and not everyone's alive to actually wipe everything out, Yumiko resets us and we reset up and we do it all again and we clear the wave. So that is how you build a resetting single wave nuking team. Now, does it have to be Seer? No. I mean, if you've got a Taurus, for example, Taurus can probably nuke the waves down as well as a Seer. Very similar format and setup, in fact, as well. He's going to need the buffs as well. It looks like Leonardo might be able to do that as well because he's got an absolute nuke with power up, but he's probably going to need the other turtles to be able to ignore a bunch of extra defense, but he may not. Who knows? It depends on how you're going to build him, and I haven't had a chance to fool around with him in this particular team yet. And honestly, he can be any damage dealer that you think might be able to absolutely abolish and clear a wave. It really does help if they are a void damage dealer, because otherwise you're going to have to deal with weak hits and affinity issues. Seer is honestly one of the best for this though, which is the reason that everyone likes a Seer and builds a Seer team. So I'll run this through here quickly and we can just kind of watch and see how this works. Should be pretty quick. As you saw, it was about 22 turns here. We get skills that are not the resets there. We got all the buffs, debuffs, boom, everyone's dead. This floor is going to be a little bit harder because we do have the Rhodoses here. The Rhodos floors are certainly one of the ones that we will talk about a little bit later that can be problematic. But Seer has enough accuracy to actually put them asleep as well, which makes this part a little bit easier. Although they're not asleep and they're currently sleeping. Polarium fixed that bug. But hey, we're going fast enough that we're just kind of lapping everything and we get the resets here and everybody is dead. There you go. 23 turns, 32 seconds. I've already beat this floor. So there's no extra rewards for me here, obviously, but there is a reset team in a nutshell. So moving over to my free-to-play, where I do not have a plethora of reset champions, I don't have a Seer, I do have Lydia now, but I am more worried about staying alive and making sure I can just get through the waves in general. So this is the team I generally run. I've got Tholen and Alice to give me 2 different really good damage dealers. I really like Alice for a lot of this wave clear stuff still. If you actually got Alice as a free champion back when she was available and you have her soul, Alice's ability to do skill lockouts make her great for these wave clears, as well as the fact that she resets her skills if she kills somebody, so she can get her big nukes and her big AoEs back easier every time she kills somebody, and hopefully you're killing someone somewhat regularly enough to do that. Meanwhile, Tholen brings weaken at an AoE, possibly. He brings the ability to rank up his attack, so he continues to do more and more damage as the fight goes on. And overall, he gives himself increased attack automatically and hits like an absolute truck. So the 2 of them combined also give me nobody that I am super worried about from a weak affinity standpoint, because even if my Tholen is weak against the Spirit, then Alice is strong against them. And if Alice is weak against the Force, well, Tholen is at least break even against them. So I have nobody where my Dane damage dealer is always weak. So having the 2 damage dealers, very, very helpful. Meanwhile, we've concentrated on speed with the speed aura here for having Fabian up front. If I was really worried about accuracy, I could certainly put Mithrala up a little bit further, but Fabian does a good job with this as well. Fabian gives me a ton of extra control because he puts out a ton of fears, which can be very helpful for control. He will put out the petrification, which is great and another great way to lock out various people. He will also lock out their skills. So even if they do get to take a turn through all the other controls I have, he's locked out their skills for the most part, so all they can do is A1, which generally keeps me fairly safe from any of the nasty skills I would worry about in retaliation while trying to stay alive. Syl gives me a ton of healing. She gives me an AoE stun, and she gives me a revive, as well as a little bit of decreased speed and turn meter with her A1. Syl is actually one of the key components of this that got me to be able to get all the way through the other floors, and she has been a great addition to this floor climbing team. Now, before I had her, I was using Tagore. Tagore did a good job with it, but Syl's stuns have been proven to be continuously really valuable. Syl's healing is better than Tagore's, and her ability to give decreased speed as well as steal some turn meter continues to be a very valuable asset on this team. Mithrala gives me cleansing, gives me some ability to resist some controls in case something happens and I lose control of the fight. Well, she can cleanse and get back that control. The strengthen and the shields help keep people alive. The increase attack and increase defense not only help keep people alive, but give me additional damage on both of these champions. The hex adds additional damage to the other champions. Poisons do additional damage to other champions. And with the hex, she gets the petrification if they actually do attack on occasion, giving me additional control against the waves as well. So combined between everybody here, I get so much additional control and enough extra damage that I can kind of make my way through the waves without too much of a problem. That said, towards the end of this, I do have to manual some of the floors because every once in a while, some of the floors just get a little bit tricky or they require a little bit of RNG, or I sometimes just have to make sure that I get in the right attacks and then versus the next floor, I have the right skills ready to go. So, you know, you can see I don't actually have a preset for this. For the most part, I just let them roll and let them go. And if I struggle with the floor, if I lose at it more than once, well, I'm not losing those keys. So I might try it a second time on auto. And if I'm struggling on auto, I will then manual through the next couple floors. The only time I really need to do a lot of manualing is on a few of the floors in between floor 81 and floor 199. Before that, for the most part, it's just set it, let it rip, and let it go. Now, what happens if you don't have all of these champions? Well, generally, you are looking for 1 to 2 good nukers. So don't have a Tholen? Well, that's unfortunate because Tholen's great. But Lemonisi was given pretty recently. She has a 5-star soul. If you 6-star her, she will give you some block buffs, which could be very helpful. She gives you some block healing, can be very useful on some of these waves, particularly because some of these waves do have a lot of healing you have to worry about. And then she has some pretty good ability to do damage, so she could be a good damage dealer for 1 of your 2 damage dealers if you're struggling for damage. Michelangelo probably would do a very good job with this as well. He has the ability to spread some debuffs. He brings the stun, which could be very valuable. He brings decreased defense. He does some solid damage in general. He would be another viable damage dealer, and you're going to get a free 5-star soul for him as well, which will make him a lot easier to build. But honestly, any 2 well-built damage dealers, and honestly, they can be arena-built damage dealers for this because you're looking to maximize your smack on this, and honestly, they're hoping that the rest of your team can keep them alive, so that will be a good build for you. Crocard, probably a very good one because he's got 2 different AoEs, also brings Leech to help keep people alive. He brings the Weaken. He's got the AoE A1, can be very helpful as well. He could be a good champion for you. The list of nukers is kind of endless. I really do like Alice for this. I find Alice is very good because of her ability to lock other people out as well, especially if you don't have a Fabian, for example. But if you do have Fabian's going to be great and keep everyone controlled and alive. Syl, I think, is honestly almost irreplaceable, but not entirely. The good thing about it is if you have other champions that are going to bring a ton of healing, Syl probably could be replaced. But Syl's healing plus her stun just make it really hard to replace her in a lot of these waves because that ability to stun every 3 turns and the fact that she's in Relentless, so she gets it more than every 3 turns, sometimes means that you're going to keep everyone stunned, keep that extra control, and the passive healing is just absolutely huge. Mithrala, another one you probably could replace. And again, she's there as a cleanser, so that's very helpful. She's there to facilitate with extra damage. You can't use Mithrala. Well, then maybe a Lydia might be good because she'll bring the decreased defense and weaken, which will make it faster to deal with the waves just a little bit. But there's other options as well. Another control champion would be a good option as well. Warlord would be good to sub in for either a Fabian or a Mithrala here as well. Yumiko would certainly work as well. Yes, I'm talking about Void Legendaries, so I'm not necessarily saying these are going to be super accessible. Lammasu could be actually very interesting here, not as a counter because she's going to be necessarily offensive or help with the damage directly, but the fact that she can reset other champions and has a good speed aura means that Lammasu might be able to activate your nukers just that much more often, reset them, and she does do some extra fears as well as the block buffs, which can be very useful as well. And she got a good aura. So another free accessible champion. I mean, obviously you need to win Siege a bit, but she is a champion you will get eventually. Another champion that could help you. Overall, you're looking for champions that can help you control the other team, get more actions, and just overall make your way through the waves. Before I was using Fabian, Morrigan was a regular favorite on this team. Morrigan certainly didn't have the control of the actual lockout, but she would give me turn meter boost and steal turn meter, as well as give me a chance to fear everybody else as well. So she gave me some really good options. So she would be good if you're talking about lower levels as far as accessible champions for this that might be helpful. Well, High Katoon actually would be very, very good for this. High Katoon has the increased speed as well as the turn meter boost on one skill. And then she has an ability to do turn meter steal on another skill. Plus, she does have a speed aura that would be very helpful in Doom Tower. So you're not necessarily going to be climbing to floor 119 with a High Katoon, although maybe you would. She's actually a good champion. But if you're struggling with the earlier floors, a champion like High Katoon, or anybody that increases your speed, is a great way to help you through the waves. Deacon Armstrong is another really good option for you as well. He gives you the decreased defense, he gives you turn meter drain, he gives you some turn meter boost as well, and he even gives you some leech, and he gives you an aura. Great champion. I wish I had him on this account. He would actually possibly even make it into this team over Mithrala. Possibly. I'd certainly try it out and see how it worked. But again, it's all about finding the team that works for you and finding a team that really is capable of dealing with a lot of different problems. So you want damage dealers of 2 different affinities, or at least one of them to be void. You want lockout champions, so you're looking for champions that are going to stun the waves. And to be fair, there are other options for you as well. Tormund is actually a really good example. Tormund in stun gear is amazing. Tormund in stun gear is one of the best controls you're going to find in this game because he gives you freeze, especially if the other team gets to take a turn and do something that might be dangerous, like boosting their speed or getting buffs. But he also gives you provokes, which can be very, very effective. He gives you stuns then with a stun set as well as the ability to strip buffs, which can be very helpful with his A2. And he's got a bunch of AoEs, and he can actually do some damage if you want to build him for some damage. Tormund can be a great champion to get by with this as well, you know? And there's certainly epics that would be definitely helpful for this as well. Skaramis would certainly be a very effective epic for this. On my main account, I used to use Sylar regularly for this. Sylar being a void epic, but she had a decreased turn meter by 40%, as well as a decreased speed, and then she had 2 different AoEs. So Sylar in stun, being very fast, was a great way to control the waves, both initially to kind of prevent them from taking a lot of turns, and then later on to stun them to try to lock them out as much as possible. So with that said, I'm not going to manual through this floor or run this floor because it's like, take 91 turns, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's going to take 3 to 5 minutes. And I've kind of explained the mechanics of this team here. So let's talk about a couple of the floors that can be problematic. And I'm not going to talk about the floors specifically. They're scattered through all over the place. I'm going to talk about a couple of the champions that just generally prove to be problematic if you're not careful. Hey, look, I just mentioned this dude. He is often one of the big problems for various waves when you are going through Doom Tower. Tormund is terrifying. Tormund has a provoke, he has heal reduction, and he has block buffs. These are already problematic to deal with. He has a freeze on the A1, that's an AoE. This is a problem. He has the ability to strip buffs on this A2, and you'll steal them if they're under freeze instead. Again, a big problem. But he's also got the most annoying passive in the game for a lot of people. He has a chance of placing freeze when somebody has their turn meter boosted or they receive a buff, which is quite often in a lot of these teams I've talked about. So the ability to do this twice a turn, once for buffs, once for turn meter fills, in cases when you receive multiple ones, is absolutely broken as far as just causing problems when you're struggling to get through a wave. So how do you fight Tormund? Well, if you have somebody that can do block passives, that's an easy win for you. Otherwise, the sooner you can get block debuffs on your champions, or if you have champions with high enough resistance that can cleanse, which is again why Mithrala is so great on some of these teams, they are going to help you get through your Torments. Now, as I've talked before on my other team, having the block debuffs that comes up really early, well, that's one of the reasons I don't worry about the Torments too much. The other problem that Torments do is they have this revive when the champion is killed and places a freeze debuff on them for 1 turn. That just means that they keep on popping up and can be very annoying. For my other team, well, Lydia helps kind of block that. So Lydia can be very helpful to counter that part of his kit. Otherwise, you're just going to need to make sure that once you kill Tormund, you're ready to kill him again. So just be aware that you have to kill him, and then you have somewhere between 6 to 8 turns to do it again before he can possibly revive himself a second or third time. He also is unfortunately very, very tanky. Being a defense-based damage dealer, he has a high defense and good HP, which means he tends to not take a lot of damage. Plus, if he freezes himself, he also gets the freeze damage reduction as well, making him harder to kill on the second wave or when he comes back as well. So block buffs, cleansing with high resistance, great ways to deal with Tormund. Otherwise, block revive can be helpful to keep him down, and just maybe avoiding using a lot of your buffs if you're worried that you're going to get frozen out and you don't have any way to counter it. Unfortunately, I am in the way of one of the 2 champs with this problem, but we're on the undead here because we're going to talk about the Siphi and Rhodos waves. Now, Rhodos in and of himself is a bit of a problem because Rhodos can only take 50% of his max HP, and that gives him an instant extra turn. So some of the ways you can deal with Rhodos is to stun him, is to drop his turn meter to make sure he doesn't get a turn in the first place because he can be kind of gross, to block the passives, find other ways to deal damage to him that's going to exceed that 50%. Double hits, triple hits can certainly exceed that max HP as well. So that is one of the ways you can deal with that passive. Generally stuff you're going to be dealing with in the arena as well. So various similar ways you would deal with Rhodos in the arena. You also can deal with him on the ground as well. So here in Doom Tower, it's he's problematic, but where he is absolutely nuts is when he's also paired with Siphi. That is a problem because one of the things that Siphi does is Siphi, in addition to all the healing that she puts passively out there, she will remove fear, true fear, and freeze from anybody, which unfortunately means that some of the controls that you might have on some of these teams are not as effective. And it's the start of the allies' turn. So it is one of these weird things where it's not controlling Siphi doesn't help you make this work properly. She also passively removes all debuffs from Rhodos the Lost Groom at the start of their turn if they're on the same team. So if you have a Siphi and a Rhodos, you cannot do anything other than lock that Rhodos' skills out to control that Rhodos, because the moment they get a turn, they drop all of their debuffs and then get the full turn. So you can't even poison them to kill them. You can decrease their speed, and that'll help them not take the turn in the first place. You can decrease their turn meter, which is another way to control them. But those provokes, those fears, those freezes, they do not control a Rhodos if Siphi is on the floor with Rhodos. So if you want to make sure that Siphi doesn't cause these problems on the floors with Siphi and Rhodos, you want to focus down the Siphis first. That will keep the healing at a minimum, and that'll mean you don't have the revive being dangerous to, once I got Rhodos down, oh crap, she just revived Rhodos with enough HP to make sure that he can get his stupid double hit passive back and be annoying there, and a ton of turn meter, which means he might be able to just absolutely wreck your face. But on top of that, you don't really want to let her get a turn anyway, because once she gets block debuffs and increased speed on everybody, it becomes a lot harder to deal with those floors as well. So Siphi is a priority target for you if you are manualing way through any of these floors, but specifically if you have a Siphi Rhodos wave, down Siphi first, and you're probably going to have to manual that particular wave, if not that entire floor, because there's a couple floors where you have Siphi and Rhodos on multiple waves. Ah, yes, the evil Mortu Macabre. Mortu Macabre is very annoying in Doom Tower Waves. And the reason he is annoying is because he is constantly in danger of activating Peril. Peril gives him all kinds of, well, it gives you a good way to block revive, and it absolutely nukes, even when he is not built for crit damage, because he has a ton of max HP, and he ignores all defense with this because the skill is absolutely busted when it happens. And since you're probably going to be slowly picking him off with a lot of support and overall damage, he's going to have a lot of time to get this Peril out. And the big problem is this passive skill right here, 20% chance to unlock a secret skill. Peril for 1 turn when attacked also has a 20% chance of filling his turn meter by 25%. Now, that 25% always seems to be about 75% when you're fighting him, and only about 5% when you have him on your team. It's just what happens. It's how it feels. But again, if you're constantly hitting Mortu with just about anything, including debuffs, controls that also happen to be attacks, he's got so many chances to activate this. It also means that he's hard to control because, okay, maybe I did stun him, but if I've stunned him and then hit him 3 times and he's gained 50% turn meter over being hit 2 of those 3 times activating this fiery rage, well, yes, he flips to his next turn, and if he can't use Peril, well, Peril gets locked again, but he's suddenly uncontrolled, and now you've got a problem because he's uncontrolled. The other thing you do need to be aware of with Mortu is that as long as he gets a turn, you cannot lock this out with block active skills. You cannot lock this out with, a reset block because this is a specially activated skill. So the only way to lock this out as far as a control is concerned is a provoke is a great way to lock this out. So provoke means that yes, he will attack, but he has to attack with his A1, which means he doesn't even get this A2, which can be fair do a little bit of damage as well. And he will not use the Peril if he happens to be provoked. So provokes are actually a good way to control Mortu Macabre. That said, constantly controlling him, so constantly getting things like turn meter steal on him, decrease speed to kind of make sure he's taking less turns, getting the freezes out or the stuns out or anything like that on him can be good to keep him under control. Fears are fine other than the fact that he still can occasionally get something through fears, so you got to be careful with that as well. Otherwise, you're just going to mostly be trying to whittle Mortu Macabre down. Another thing you can try to do is knock down his max HP, but overall that means you're going to be hitting him a lot, and honestly, you're probably better off just bringing enough damage to kill him or bringing enough control to control him. The max HP is probably not the best way to attack him overall, although if he does manage to trigger his Peril without a lot of max HP, it will nerf his damage somewhat. But all it takes is a lucky hit for him to kill somebody, and now you're out of that champion because you cannot revive them with that block revive. So working on controlling Mortu Macabre, definitely a high priority on those floors. You're probably going to have to manual those floors if you don't automatically just one-shot the Mortu Macabres, because those floors will randomly just absolutely kill you. And sometimes you want to be careful about attacking a Mortu Macabre just because you don't want to trigger Peril and you don't have them controlled. So being able to do a manual on a floor or two with a Mortu is definitely a good practice. Now this kind of goes into the Mortu Macabre waves, but some of the worst Mortu Macabre waves have multiple Mortu Macabres and multiple Skytouch Shamans. And they are problematic because Skytouch Shaman has an ability to cleanse and put block debuffs up. So Skytouch Shaman, generally not super dangerous most of the time, other than the Revive on Death being annoying, but block debuffs and Revive on Death on the Mortu Macabres that are going to be absolutely mauling you if you continue to hit them can prove to be very problematic. So locking out your Skytouch Shaman can be a great way to prevent them from doing anything other than their A1. They also do heal everybody else as well, so getting the Skytouch Shaman down early can be very, very helpful. But the danger for them to constantly cleanse means you have to worry about controlling them as well. So this is more only are they dangerous on the Mortu Macabre floors, but be aware that if you're not locking them out, they can always do this Immortal Skies, cleanse everybody, put Revive on Death on everybody, and that can really slow you down, if not put to a halt, your ability to progress on that floor if you don't have some way to strip off those buffs or some other way to control them before they get to it. So there you go. That is ways to put together wave clear teams for Doom Tower. Honestly, a lot of these things that you can do for wave clear are going to apply in Curse City as well, but with Curse City, you're certainly going to be restricted at which champions you can bring. But in general, if you're struggling to just nuke down a wave, you're going to want to start looking at ways to control the waves. So you're going to want things like fears, things like stuns, things like freezes, things like provokes, ways to make sure that champions cannot get the right skills off, ways to lock them out as well. Another great way to deal with them. Otherwise, flat out nuking everyone, resetting the skills, or bringing enough nukers to just be able to nuke wave after wave after wave after wave is a great way to overall get through Doom Tower. I know on my main, when I'm doing Doom Tower normal, I can pretty much put in 3 nukers into a wave and just kind of walk up in 4 to 6 turns every single floor, just because I've got nukers that can one-shot just about everything. And on the normal floors, I'm not as worried about the Rhoduses taking a turn or anything like that, because those Rhoduses are nowhere near as strong as the one on hard Doom Tower towards the top. So, if you can just nuke your way through a wave, that's awesome. Do it. It'll be fast. But once you start struggling to be able to just flat out nuke your way through a wave, that's when strategies like these are going to help you get through the Doom Tower waves. So hopefully you guys found this helpful. Hopefully you found this interesting and entertaining. I definitely appreciate you guys hanging around, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button. Let me know if there's any parts of Doom Tower you guys are struggling with. I have a video on Baumel. I have multiple videos on Dark Fae, and I can certainly do videos on other bosses if you guys are struggling with them. But hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I love making content for you guys. Guides like this are fun. It's interesting to explore the things that you guys want to know, as well as kind of sharing my knowledge about things that in some cases it's so easy to overlook. Doom Tower Waves is one of the cases where I didn't think this was something that needed a guide necessarily, but people have asked about it, and honestly, I'm sure there are people out there that have never built a reset wave clear and have never built a Doom Tower wave clear, or are struggling on the waves and they're not quite sure what to do. So hopefully this helps you out, because I love helping you out, and I love being a member of one of the best communities in Raid. So appreciate you guys. You have a wonderful day, and until the next video, I am Bront CatHerder.